I've been waiting for the backlash against the LGBT agenda for a long time. I've been waiting for it to hit the mainstream and for people to realise that these disparate groups don't get on with each other and that somehow someone called them a community. So it's the LGBTQ community, even though all those groups hate each other. There's no community aspect there. It's just a bunch of letters that have been bundled together, and it wasn't us that bundled them together, and it wasn't us that made it Pride Month. The corporations have virtue signal to do that, and they fall over themselves to virtue signal who's the most tolerant by revealing who supports the most ridiculous letters. So now, no one actually knows what the actual acronym stands for. No one knows what LGBTIIBBQQIXYZ soup blah blah blah. And on Fox News yesterday, on Tucker Carlson, the guest, the Liberal Party in Canada, didn't even understand what those words meant. Didn't even understand what the acronym stood for. And when it was explained what they stood for, he didn't even know what they meant because they don't mean anything. That's the thing, you can't pretend that Two-Spirit means something. You can't just say, oh, it's when they're confused whether you're not Arthur or Martha. Two-Spirit? What the hell does that mean? Oh, I'll be both. Oh, I'll be omnisexual and Two-Spirit. Well, can I be Three-Spirit then, or is that discriminated against? Well, why can't I be? If they can be that and it's not based on science, I can be whatever the frick I want. I can be Ten-Spirit if I want. And they're intolerant for stopping me. If they don't have a separate letter and a separate symbol for Ten-Spirit, then I am going to go to the police, I'm going to go to the politically correct police and complain and say, you're not tolerant enough, LGBTITTBBXYZ soup. And that's what I learned from the interview with Tucker Carlson, that the guy tried to defend what Two-Spirit meant without even knowing what it meant. It doesn't mean anything, in actual fact. They're trying to make it mean something. They're trying to teach kids and teach all the parents to enforce this regime in their schools. That's the point. It's this draconian, totalitarian, authoritarian nature of the LGBT agenda, which is being applied just roughly everywhere, stamping on everyone's rights and the notion of free speech. So if someone uses a hurtful slur, oh, you can sue them because now we're so tolerant, we can stop everyone saying anything that might be remotely hurtful. In fact, no one will ever say anything that might be interpreted as hurtful ever again. That's how protected you are. But that's not freedom, is it? Freedom means that you're not protected from every hurtful word, or every potentially hurtful word. Freedom means that you can make mistakes and that other people can make mistakes, other people can misgender you and it's not a crime, but we don't have that. We have it now where if you misgender someone it's a crime, where vindictive, spiteful trannies will turn around and say, excuse me, it's ma'am, because they're just looking for someone to sue, because they're selfish. That's what gays are generally, and trannies, twice as selfish as gays. I'm sorry if that's the truth, but that's why the LGBT groups and all the groups within it are not going to look at themselves and say, what the hell are we doing being part of this ridiculous totalitarian ideology, because they're too selfish for it. That's the truth. And the globalists know that, and the corporations know that, and that's why they get behind them. And that's why they get behind every cause that the LGBT espouses, because they're too selfish to ignore it. And if you want on board 100% with every aspect of the LGBT agenda, then you are hateful, then you are a bigot, then you are a homophobe, even if you're gay. It doesn't matter. If you don't like the LGBT agenda, you're a self-hating gay. Even if you like the sex and everything, it doesn't matter. You're a self-hating gay if you don't like the LGBT ideology. Yeah, that's how we're gonna frame this. It doesn't have to make sense. In fact, it helps if it doesn't make sense. It doesn't have anything to do with science. It doesn't have to have anything to do with science. Clearly, because none of those letters in the LGBTIIBBQQII have anything to do with science. They're not scholarly, and nothing that the LGBT community says as an argument is a scholarly argument. They don't understand what scholarly means. That's why the guy on Fox News constantly tries to turn it about feelings when Tucker just wanted to talk about facts. Tucker wanted to say, what does this mean? He said, oh, well, why have you got a problem with it, Tucker? Well, it's not about having a problem with it. What does it mean? I have a problem with a box that's, sealed, that someone says, oh, put this box in your house, it's absolutely fine, there's nothing dangerous about it. Okay, but what's in the box? Well, I'm not going to tell you, but it's fine, trust me. No! Because we've been lied to long enough, and we've been lied to so that our children's brains would be scrambled at this time in history so they wouldn't know if they were Arthur or Martha, or Two-Spirit, or Three-Spirit, or Ten-Spirit, or whatever the frick spirit. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what they call themselves. We've scrambled their brains, that's the point. We can't utilize the next generation or salvage them in any way to rescue free speech or to save freedom in any way because we've scrambled their brains with this nonsense. We have people espousing the most illiberal views ever and calling themselves liberal and being backed up by the mainstream media. Just like recently we had with Antifa in Portland. Beating up someone in the mainstream media is with them every step of the way, and so is the police. The police are ordered to facilitate Antifa's violence, and they're there selling milkshakes with concrete in them, and that's absolutely fine. They're allowed to advocate violence openly. They're allowed Twitter platforms. They're never censored, even though they're openly a terrorist group. Because anyone that has the backing of the mainstream media and the backing of the corporations and the establishment, like the LGBT establishment and like Antifa, is protected by the establishment. Even if the people hate them and even if it goes against the freedom of the people. For example, Antifa behave like fascists. And they say, bash the fash. Yeah, okay, so hit people that you frame as fascists. Well, that is being a fascist. So why don't you just hit yourself, Antifa? Why don't you just look in the mirror and smash yourself to pieces? I mean, Antifa must be full of people that hate themselves, because they are the fascists, and yet they hate fascists. So they must literally hate themselves. So Antifa and the LGBT establishment are the same thing. They're far-left, extremist identitarians. They utilize totalitarian ideologies to override democracy via mob rule and claim the moral high ground, which is the most dangerous thing historically ever. They negate the need for facts by making everything about feelings and try and turn something against you. If you have a question, then you've got a problem. What have you got a problem for? Try and make it an ad hominem wherever possible. They use all the classic tricks to avoid answering questions and all the usual false accusations. Antifa and the LGBT are one. So it might as well just be called the LGBTANTIFA. Because this is the fascism in the world, and it always was, and this is the danger to your children and society in the future, and the culture, and the integration, and any kind of unity, any kind of sanity, or sanitation. I believe this is the biggest threat to democracy in the West, particularly because of the vociferous complaints about Islamophobia, but complete ignoring of Sharia. I guess it's true, there's nothing more dangerous than puritanical pansies.